Right. Next topic. So I can kick this one off. So we hit a milestone that we're all pretty proud on, and that is about a year and a bit ago, kind of summerish of last year. Alice and our team built a custom object, unmanaged Salesforce package that helps our clients build and get the data that they need for their funnel and their life cycle, and all the benefits that if you look at some of our other videos on YouTube or some of our other podcasts, you can hear about all the benefits of the custom object tracking. I'm not going to go into that today, but it's been really successful, right? We're not a massive agency. We have 16 people on our team, and so we can't handle a dozen of these deployments a month. But in the last year-ish, we've been able to get through 15 deployments, and our clients are really getting a lot of benefit out of the custom object approach, and it's working really well. But along the way, we've learned a lot of really interesting stuff, and really about how to actually implement this and get it working in really complex B2B SaaS environments. And a lot of our clients are scale up type B2B SaaS companies that have a lot going on. We're not just implementing it into a brand new Salesforce. So I want to talk about, I think we'll maybe try and get through 2 or 3 of these, and also curious, Sander and Chrissy, if you want to share any learnings that you have or kind of jump or piggyback on some of these ones. So the first one I want to dig into is it is not just implementing a custom object in Salesforce. I know I just explained it like that, but it is a much bigger initiative.
Yeah.
And we learned this the hard way, quite frankly. So when we built the package, we got very excited. We started talking to our clients about it. We're like, we need to implement this. So we would go ahead and try and implement it. But during the implementation, we realized, wait a second, their foundation, and if you actually go and have a look at our go-to-market ops framework, you can see it on cs2marketing.com, or we've got like other videos about it. If you look at the foundation, it's everything from data capture to standardization to enrichment to handoff to signal capture, to your sales ready model, to your sales process. All of that stuff needs to really be buttoned up before you even think about implementing a custom object. And the reason is, custom object, it's just a reporting layer. One of the analogies I like to say is, like, imagine you've got a house and you have electricity running through your house, and you have all of the systems to be able to pass electricity through, light bulbs, washing machines, all of this stuff. And then you have an electric meter on the side of the house that is just counting and calculating how much electricity is running through your house. The custom object is like the electric meter on the side of the house, calculating how much electricity is running through your house. But you need the whole electrical system in your house to be working for that, even to be able to count it, to even be worthwhile, or be able to count it the right way. When we walk into some of these orgs, they've got their house with like an electric system. They've got a power generator powering like some other thing over there. They've got weird, issues with dead ends in their electrical system. I'm not an electrician, so I'm probably butchering like some of the issues here, but, and their washing machines, like short circuiting, they've got all these issues, right? And then you try and put a power, like you calculate how much electricity is running through the house. And you're like, okay, well, I'm getting like some information, but it's really not accurate here. So it's the same.
Or you're just getting information on just like bad process. So like if you haven't nailed down how sales ready leads are getting to sales, or even like refining that or anything like that, like what's the point of like measuring that? Because you're going to just get bad data anyway. So I think
or missing data.
Or missing
right?
data. Yeah. And so it's just like, just start tracking properly once you have the foundation. And the foundation stuff is really what's going to drive your business and make them more effective. Like the reporting is just the cherry on top to get the insight into it all. And so when you think about a salesperson or SDR, they don't give a shit about like the reporting that you have. They're like, I just want to be able to follow up with the right people at the right time and have that process be simple and accurate and so forth. And so, and that's what's going to turn into revenue. And that's what you're trying to report on, is revenue and tracking all those people down to revenue. So it just makes sense, doesn't it?
And this is going to be relevant to the final topic we're going to talk about. But what often happens in these orgs is the C-suite, they want reporting. It's like the number one ask from C-suite is around reporting. And the custom object can give them that. So they say, give me custom object reporting. Well, I mean, they don't even say, give me custom object reporting. They say, give me the reporting. And the best solution would be the custom object. But what they don't realize is there's this underlying foundation that is going to, one, help them enable, the sales team, the marketing team to run all their go-to-market motions, capture data, process data the right way, sell the right way, close revenue. They need that all working just to be able to run the business. Plus, you need that all working to be able to get meaningful reporting on it, kind of like back to my electrical house analogy. And so
or they think they have the foundation, which is like,
or they think they have the foundation.
Yeah. And then you go in, you're like, actually, you kind of do, but it's not set up in the right way that we can then report on effectively and so forth.
Yeah. And so there's a few key areas that I think everyone, if you are thinking about the custom object, focus on these areas. Number one, your sales process. I would say 99% of companies we work with, when we go and audit the sales process, or even just like speak to 3 different people in the company about like, what is your sales process? And this is from down to what leads are coming to you, how should sales work them, maybe using a sales engagement tool, etc. When should you create an opportunity, and how you should be able to update that opportunity, and kind of all of the nuances in between all those stages. You ask 3 people in the org, you get 3 different answers. You look at the documentation, there's like 3 versions of the documentation, they're all conflicting. You actually go and look at what's happening, there's opportunities without contact roles, there's sales, there's loads of leads just sat in a working stage, all of these like really common issues. And it's something that this kind of stuff should have been eradicated by now, but it just hasn't. Companies haven't taken this seriously enough to be able to like really invest in this until maybe they start working with a company like ours to like come and actually build out a repeatable system that's going to work. So that's number one, like really focus on that. And number 2 is relates a little bit to what Xander was talking about. Your data capture, and then also on top of that, your data process needs to be working. So you need to know, like, there's a being able to see, okay, like how many MQLs did we get and how many converted into pipeline opportunities and revenue, that's great. But the next question is, okay, where did these come from? Where's the attribution here? So you need to be able to make sure your UTMs are tracking properly, you're standardizing that data, you have the right order of operations in place, the data's flowing through from Marketo or HubSpot into Salesforce the right way. So then you can tie that all together so you can show, okay, our demo request conversion rate is 40%. Our content syndication conversion rate is 1%. We're getting all of these meetings from this channel or this campaign. That is where you need both the sales process working and all of the data collection, UTM, lead sourcing process working to be able to give you that picture once you do install a custom object. So do not minimize the foundation is the major takeaway here. Anything to add on that, Chrissy or Xander? No. All right. We can move on to the second one.
Perfectly. I mean, it's
that might be the first time I've opened the door to Xander to give an opinion, and then there wasn't anything there.
I know. I do have opinions. I was just trying to give space for Chrissy. I think that it's also trying to explain that like the end result being the reports, that's what we can always work toward, so like you want to set the expectation with your teams, like we're going to get that for you. But yeah, if you just jump into the deep end, I've seen it. And then you start making bad decisions off of poor data, and that's way more detrimental than waiting 3 months to get the foundation fixed and investing the right number of hours and the right teams to get all of that fixed, right? And sometimes it's going to take longer depending on how much tech debt has been created. But I think that the other thing that I've just noticed working on a few of these lately is like keep the process as simple as possible. So when you're going through this, like don't just think about what should I add, but like what should I remove? Are there steps that are just getting in the way? Can we explain this easier? Can we clean up layouts better so that way the team knows what's necessary? I know recently, Chrissy, you had kind of mentioned that in an internal chat of just like, let's just keep it as simple as possible. We can always make it more complex, but when you're trying to like rebuild something, make it smooth. I had a sandbox review yesterday with a client, and that was the feedback that we heard. This is beautiful. I love to see this. This is easy to follow. I'm going to be able to enable this. And then we found, oh, there's going to be like one part of the process that's going to be harder to enable. Well, we can spend more time on that one piece as opposed to here's this giant change for everybody. So I'm always excited about it. Every time that we launch one of these, we get really great feedback because we're taking the time to do it right.
Yeah. That's a good point too, because I think going back to the foundation part, I think a lot of people have been in orgs where they haven't even revisited it for a really long time, honestly. And then they often don't. Where that's like the great part about our good market ops framework is we have it pretty nailed down of like what are the important things that we need to focus on. And so being able to go through and like just focus on those key areas and also make it iterative, like you said, like start out simple. And then once you've gotten to a certain point where everything is, you know, sophisticated enough and scalable, but you can add on or you can go back and make changes or update it, you know, as our tech and our process or even your org changes. So I think taking this time to start to maybe go back and simplify and take out a lot of what's already there in the foundation that hasn't been touched, I think is just opportunistic, like you said. So
yeah, and people always ask me on sales calls, they're like, when should we start investing in our go-to-market ops or like a custom object like this? And my answer is always like way earlier than you think.
Yeah.
Because the cycle that I see over and over and over again, and it makes me want to bang my head against a wall, is that a company scales, they get maybe a couple of rounds of funding, they basically build a massive Frankenstack of stuff that doesn't work when it comes to their go-to-market ops because there's, you know, they've had like 15 MOPS people, you know, working there in the last 2 years, and everyone's just kind of bolted different parts on, and nothing's working. But then they hire leadership. They hire a CMO, and they go, okay, CMO, in your first 30 days, I want you to have figured out everything, like what's working, what's not working. I want to be able to, you to allocate the budget perfectly. You need to be able to get 4 to 5 to 6x pipeline. And then it's like the CMO is like, okay, let me have a look at the data. Then I'm sure you've got some great reports for me to look at to see how everything's working. And everyone's like, oh no, we don't actually. Yeah, we actually have nothing for you. And then the CMO goes, oh shit, we need to get someone to come in really quickly. And they call up CS2 and go, how quickly can you get all this stuff working? And then we go, we'll try and do it as quickly as possible, but it's going to take a bit of time because we have to unravel like 3 years of mess before we can start building like a few months of quality stuff. And they're always like, oh, how do you do it quicker? And then we can try and do it quicker, but the problem is once you go back into the cycle of like trying to rush through things, you're just going to make the same mistakes that the company had made before. So if you are a CEO or someone in a leadership position and you're thinking about hiring a CMO, or you've got to the stage where you're going to start getting leadership and you're starting to answer these complex questions, get some of the stuff built before, or at least worked on before, particularly the foundation. You don't have to have a custom object in the early days, but get the foundation working properly, because when you need the reporting, you don't want to have to start building it then, right?
Yeah.
You want to have it ready. So that's a big takeaway there for sure.
Yeah. I think another thing to note here too is just like the misconceptions around like the need for a custom object is like a big learning too, and how there's a good amount of education that needs to be done. Like some companies have been basing their reporting and goals off of the wrong thing. Like they're not doing cohorted analysis. They're taking like an MQL report during a certain time frame and then looking at how many opportunities they got in that time frame and then trying to deduce like what their conversion rate is. And it's like, wow, that is so inaccurate. Like those opportunities did not come from all those MQLs in that time frame. And we've seen that like weirdly a lot. And so that's inaccurate. And so just making sure that we know like, okay, we need to leave some time to maybe to like really educate people on like the purposes of why you need a custom object. And we have podcasts on that. So go and find that. We have so many videos on that. This whole concept is like our Roman Empire, you know? So
yeah.
yeah, you can find as much content on that everywhere. We're always talking about it and thinking about it.
So if
So
this
last-
concept is our Roman
good.
Empire, I just want to know what are the barbarians, because that's what we need to be careful of.
Need to
Bad
build
data,
Hadrian's
bad
Wall.
data is the barbarians.
That's true. That is very true. So last thing before we go on to the final topic here, there's still a lot of confusion in the market about the difference between funnel metrics and multi-touch attribution.
Yeah.
The custom object is this custom object in particular is not a multi-touch attribution model. It has elements of attribution, and it can get maybe more than one touch. Often we're tying back to the tipping point source. So you've listened to other videos of ours. It's basically what did the buyer do that then led to sales needing to reach out, right? Like demo requests from a Google ad or an event, something like that. And maybe we can add, okay, well, what was the touch point right before an opportunity was created? What was the touch point right before the opportunity is closed? It might have a few touch points on it, but it's still not a true multi-touch attribution model like a visible or a hockey stack or something like that.
It's more like the signal. I think we've talked about it like that before too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then there are differences between the two. And I think we've got other content on this, right? There's one of our videos called Stop Confusing Multi-Touch Attribution and Funnel Metrics. Go check that out if you're interested. But I just want to make it really clear, like this custom object is not to solve your multi-touch attribution issues. It's to solve something that I consider more fundamental and important, which is to solve the reporting over how you're converting the signals and buyers into revenue, tying back to more of a simple attribution model that everyone can understand, and then looking at the conversion rates throughout your sales process so you can really optimize a lot more than just marketing. You're optimizing all of your go-to-market motions. So just want to make that clear. They're not the same. They're different. They're both complementary. And I think we probably, CS2, we could probably put more content out about that because there's still a lot of confusion.
Yeah.